welcome back, you guys. My name is Justin Robinson, and this is the Art School Graduate Podcast. Today, I am blessed to have George on my podcast. Some of you guys don't know him, but you definitely have seen his work. It's iconic, and I'm so happy that you're here with us today, brother, man. Thank you, George. How you doing?
Man, thank you. Thank you for having me, man. Better known as A Tribe Called Hip-Hop.
Yes.
That's what people know me on as online, but yeah. I'm George, last name is Gabriel. It's good to meet you guys for the first time.
Yes. So, man, let's jump into it. Photography, videography, that is your bread and butter. You are excellent at it. How did you get attached to this?
Yeah, first, thanks for the compliment. I kind of started photography, I guess, in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I took a high school photography class, but it really wasn't because I was like really that fascinated by photography. It was really because I took a lot of design classes, like graphic design, and I saw that you used Photoshop in the photography class. Like, go figure, right? Lightroom.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't know all that, so I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm already familiar with that stuff, so it might be an easy transition or an easy A for me at that time." And that was really what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the first time that I had picked up like a camera, like a DSLR, right? Before that, I had like point and shoot cameras, but that was really the first time I picked up like a really serious camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have been like a sophomore or junior in high school at that time. That was like my first entry level, like introduction to photography. But man, I don't know. Should it be a long-winded answer or should it be like you looking for the whole?
You give the people what you want them to know about you. This is about you.
Okay, so photography, I guess fast forward a few years, like into my early college years, I started writing for a hip hop blog called The Word Is Bond. It's based in the UK. This is like the tail end of the blog era for my hip hop fans. And man, I was going to shows in LA, and what it was is they're based in the UK, The Word Is Bond, and they needed people in LA because hip hop's happening here in LA, you know, not necessarily in the UK. It's happening there, but not in the same way. Mm-hmm. And so they needed people to cover events. And there was another guy who was on the team with me who was a shooter, a photographer. And so we would go to these shows like Tag Team, and I would be interviewing the artists, and I would do write-ups like blogs about the events. And then eventually he was like, "Hey, I have an extra camera." And so that's kind of how it was born, like the concert photography, because I started realizing I had more access with a camera. And it was really that simple. I was just like such a hip hop fan and excited to be in those spaces, but having the camera let me into additional rooms. So and without getting super long-winded on it, it was high school photography. And then my guy, Eric, who had handed me his extra camera to shoot some of these hip hop shows out here in LA. And that was like my real entry level photography introduction.
That's good. So what do you like to shoot with? Let's talk the technical things right now.
Oh man. So I am currently madly in love with the Canon EOS R. I think this thing is incredible. I've been using it for the past 4 or 5 years. 5 years, 4 years. It's been a little minute. If you've seen any of the pictures or videos that we've put out, me and Power 106, everything's on those Canons. So absolutely adore those.
So you have you tried any other camera, or is it just you've just fell in love with that? Because I'm the same way. Like, it took me so long to get rid of my Canon and go into Sony, and now I've had my Sony for so long, and now I'm going into Fuji. So now I'm like, I'm there with it. So are you kind of like that, or are you just loyal to the soil?
I might be loyal to the soil. Like, as I think about it, my point and shoot cameras were Canon. And in high school they were Nikon, but the one that Eric let me borrow was Canon as well. And then I had a Canon 7DD back in the day that I just ran through. That thing has seen some hip hop, man.
Yeah.
7DD has seen some hip hop. But currently the setup is the Canon EOS R. I haven't moved on to the newer units that they have, but I see them and I'm always itching to get one. I'm like, I might need one of those.
Dude, we need to shout out Canon, sponsor my boy real quick. Let him get let him get the carte blanche package to go in your studio and grab some lenses and get some bodies off of y'all real quick. That'll be phenomenal. So we're on this journey of you coming into photography and then you're going into videography. I'm curious, how did hip hop grab your attention?
Okay, that's a good question. So hip hop, like I've always just been attracted to it, like since I can remember. I don't have any siblings or like, so nobody kind of like put me on. A lot of people I run into, it's like it was an older brother, an older sister that put them on. That wasn't it for me. I just was so attracted to like the rhythm and the sounds and the delivery, right? Like everything was just so dope to me. And I think it was maybe Tupac that kind of sparked that for me.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been like California Love or something like that. But you know, he was definitely the catalyst and then some other artists, but hip hop was just so fascinating to me, especially just growing up and thinking about hip hop as a genre and its age at the time. I was like, wow, like the people who started it are still alive at that time. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like I was so fascinated with that idea. Like it reminded me of jazz. Like there's a lot of parallels to jazz, right? But it was so crazy. I was like, wow, like these people who started are still here. They're still walking around and they created like this behemoth. You know, like
Right.
I was just so fascinated with it and I wanted to know everything about it. And I went down a deep, deep rabbit hole of like learning about like the Funky 4 plus one more and the Treacherous 3 and the Cool Mo D, like literally everything. I feel like I am such a student of this culture. But it was just falling in love with the music was the first step.
Yeah, because your name says it all. A Tribe Called Hip Hop. Like a lot of people don't know the callback to what group that is. So it's just like that's pretty dope. If you're a super hip hop head, you really understand that callback. And so I'm just curious now. It's just like what is your approach to capturing these moments in hip hop? Because it's like we're gonna just go right for it. You have some very iconic photographs. Like let's start off with the Jay-Z one. That one flew. Like even if I can tell why it flew. You pinned it, and if you go underneath the comments, yo, check your DMs. Can we use? Check your DM. Like it took off, and it is such a clean aesthetic of a photograph. Like so what is your approach to capturing this energy in hip hop?
You know what? I think it starts from having like a deep reverence and like respect for the culture. Like it comes from a place of love and like, you know, I always remember being like that little kid and just loving hip hop and, you know, being in these moments and being able to contribute to the culture and being in those spaces. Like it's never lost on me, like how cool it is. Trust me, I know like the Jay-Z thing is crazy.
Right.
um, I can't say too much about that specific day, but just being able to be in the room with him and, you know, knowing his lyrics by heart, like, oh my gosh, bro. I'm not even talking about the singles, you know, I'm not talking about like H2O or Dirt Off Your Shoulder. I'm talking about like, I'm talking about like Reasonable Doubt, Feeling It, or, you know, Brooklyn's Finest with Biggie and just the records. The 22 twos, and he says A Tribe Called Quest on that. Well, you know, I love Jay and like being in the moment with him. You know, not too many people get to be in the room with him these days. And so knowing that he was there and I had that opportunity, I was like, I gotta go crazy. And I think what I walked away with was an image that was just, I think it caught a lot of people off guard because you don't usually see him smiling. Or laughing.
No, you don't.
And I think that's what it was, especially at that time. You know, you don't really see a lot of images go like super viral anymore. It's always video, you know, but I think that particular image was really striking because, you know, I caught him sort of in a candid moment.
You really did.
I can't really say what he was laughing about or like what it was. You know, but
you just you had to be there to experience it.
Yeah, you had to be there, and my goal in that moment was really to just capture his essence and that aura, you know. I mean, he's one of the GOATs.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, come on, you know, and it did what it was supposed to do, you know, it really did what it was supposed to do. So, I mean, shout out to everybody that made that moment happen. The whole Benny the Butcher and Black Soprano family, Kat, Tony, Jake. Shout out to everybody that was a part of that day. But we walked away with a crazy, legendary Jay-Z picture.
You really did. And you know what else is dope, bro? You got some nods from some really like goats in the game for photography. Even his own photographer, Kodak Lens, shouted you out and was like giving you love. And even Armin shouted you out and gave you love too. And if you guys don't know these people, just look them up. They have shot many, like Kodak Lens, for example, has shot many classic hip hop pieces. Armin, he is literally paving the way for the newer generation to have their version in time right now. And so I just want to tell you, George, man, you are in great company when you are taking these pictures, man. That it's just dope to see it. Super fanning out right now. That is super dope, man.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Armin too. He's a cool dude. Every time I see him, it's always love. And I remember, you know, not to get too behind the scenes or whatever, I remember him hitting me up about that Kendrick show. And he was like, yo, does you have access to this, or you know somebody who does, because I want to shoot it. And you know, it was beautiful to watch it on. I was watching it on Amazon.
Me too.
So it was beautiful to see him, you know, from my DMs of a week or two prior, like on stage and making the shot happen, and then seeing his photo on the billboard and everywhere. Like, so shout out to him. And of course, shout out to Kodak that you mentioned. I mean, he's like one of the absolute GOATs of this photography stuff. And he is a tremendous inspiration. He really is. I got to tell him that, which was really cool. But shout out to him for real.
So since we're talking about inspirations, what inspires you to just keep going? What is that drives you? Because it's like growing up, the vibe, the source, that's where we saw these iconic hip hop pieces. Now we don't have those pieces anymore. So it kind of, like you said, people don't get excited by the photographs anymore. So what is it that drives you and still inspires you to create and get these pictures?
I think that's a really great question, because I think for me, what it is I really want to document the culture, and I get really excited about artists that I'm excited about. So it's not always the modern contemporary artists that move me. So a lot of times it's, you know, like I have Slick Rick behind me.
Yeah.
And I love Slick Rick, and I had the pleasure of meeting him and taking some photos of him. And they're like some of my all-time favorite images that I've ever taken. But it's people in that vein of like, you know, the Slick Ricks or the Jay-Z's or the Commons, you know, people like that I really love. People like that I really love, that I want to document and capture. And I think they deserve that light and that love. And that's kind of what drives me still is, you know, am I able to get somebody dope or that's dope to me? And then can I highlight them in a way that, you know, they deserve to be highlighted in, if that makes sense.
Right.
I get so excited when it's an OG, like more than you might expect.
Yeah.
I get really, really excited. You know, for reference, I work at a radio station, and there's a lot of people that come up to the radio station. So sometimes it's the contemporary, the new artists, but sometimes we get the old school artists, and I'm in my bag when they show up. I got the vinyls. I'm like, I need autographs. I need everything. And then at the end, we're going to do a shoot, and I'm going to get some really cool images as well. It's just what drives me is to continue to contribute to the culture, to continue to add something. You know, I never wanted to be in it just to say I was in it, but I wanted to be in it to say like I left my mark, right? And I can leave my mark by having some really dope images.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate thing. And I think you're right on your way to it, brother, man. I think that's so incredible. So when it comes to actually like shooting these artists, what is some of the most challenging things? Like, what are the things you've run into that you've considered challenging, or that you've considered like an obstacle that you've had to overcome because it's like either a time crunch or it's just, battery's about to die. The lighting isn't perfect. What are some of your challenges you've had to work through?
Oh man, you know what? I would say timing is always an issue. But more so than you might expect is sometimes the team can be problematic.
Mhm.
Like the artist manager, the label rep, and that's no disrespect to anybody. They're doing their jobs and they got to get these superstars, in and out, and they got to meet their schedules. I totally get it, but I think sometimes they get in the way because I have a vision or I have an idea of something
Mhm.
that'll be dope, and maybe the artist might even be on board with it, and then they're like, yeah, let's do it, and then somebody who's not in the conversation at all comes in and is like, oh, we don't have time for that. We got to go. Like,
Yeah.
we got to be down the street, or we got to go across the city, or I'm like, I totally get it. I never want to step on anybody's toes in those moments, but there's been more than enough times like that where I've missed out on shooting somebody that I was really excited to shoot
Mhm.
because of time crunch. Not necessarily batteries or poor lighting, because poor lighting I can work with, I can adjust on the fly. And if for some reason I can't do it in that moment, I can do it in post in Lightroom and I can make that image be where it's supposed to be. But
Mhm.
on the equipment side, I'm
Ready.
locked in.
Got
I've never had like a dead battery. That's never ever happened. But yeah,
you. Okay.
those are some of the. It's mostly a time thing, or people maybe not understanding what we're trying to accomplish in that moment. Because I do it really fast. I'm
Gotcha.
really fast.
So I know this is probably for the photography nerds. How do you shoot, RAW or JPEG?
Oh, raw every time.
Excellent.
Raw every.
Excellent.
I do not shoot in JPEG at all. If I could do it on my phone in
Mhm.
RAW and it wouldn't take up so much space, I would probably do it RAW on my phone as
Mhm.
well, just for the culture.
Well, yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Uh,
Oh, so if you're a photographer, I'm a photographer, you're a photographer, we understand that this process of capturing these photographs is a very like intimate. Sometimes they're intimate because sometimes you're depending on the type of lens you has, your focal point, all that. It's a bunch of stuff. So how do you build this trust with the artist you're working with so that they allow you into their space? Because we know most artists have egos, most artists are very private, some are very flamboyant, but it's like for them to allow you into this intimate, close space, it kind of allows them to be vulnerable. So how do you build that
mhm.
trust with them?
I think that's really interesting that you say that, because if you look at some of the portraits that I take, you'll notice that they're very up close.
Hmm.
Almost all of them, I like to be like kind of in this bounding box, like
Hmm.
very up close. I like people to see the details in their face. And so occasionally there is pushback from them because like, whoa, it was kind of too close. But usually how I navigate those moments are because it's a process like getting to that point, right?
Hmm.
And then I think more often than not, I think if they have a wall up,
Hmm.
it comes down because I start talking to them about, I'm like, why did you change your inflection on this verse, or that double entendre you did right there was crazy, or
Right.
the B side of this record that you released in 1992 is insane. Because then they're like, oh wow, like you're a fan,
Hmm.
like and really like my work like intimately, and
Right.
all of the intricacies about it. And so usually what ends up happening is, as if you're an artist, you're kind of a nerd about your craft.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
We are.
yeah. So when you meet someone else who understands you and sees you,
Hmm.
that wall kind of comes down, and it's like, oh yeah, man, whatever you want to do, let's do it.
Yeah.
What pose do you think would be fly, or what do you think would be dope? And honestly, I had that exact situation with Slick Rick
Hmm.
a couple years ago, where I was just fanning out, and he was just, after the fact, he was so cool to be like, yeah, whatever you want to do, whatever photos you want to do, I'm down to do it all.
Yeah.
So usually that's what it is. And if I don't have that, um, let's say that personal interaction with them,
Hmm.
what's easy for me to do is pull up some photos on my Instagram, something I've taken as a reference point. I'd be like, yo, I kind of want to do this with you. I think you would be dope like this. And usually they get it and they're like, yeah, let's do it. It's, if you can't get that connection, show them what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, let's do it.
That's interesting. So you're showing them what you can do to break down that wall, pretty much, to allow them to see like this is an art, this is a craft. This isn't like I'm gonna take this picture and send it out to publications. This is something I take seriously, pretty much.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's dope. So since we're still in this intimate phase of like photography and creating, how do you see photography contributing to the broader conversation of hip hop? Because it's like we were talking before about like some of the bigger names, like the Manions and the he just passed away. Is it Chi?
Yeah.
Chi. Yeah,
Chi or Chai.
Chai. Yeah, so those dudes.
I know what you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about. They were the tastemakers for hip hop. So it's like, how do you see like photography continuing that broader conversation of hip hop and its impact on society?
You know what's interesting about some of those guys, like the Jonathan Mannions and the one that passed away that you mentioned, they have some of the most insane, like striking images like you'll ever see in the hip hop space, especially Jonathan. I think of the DMX album cover where he's like dripping in blood.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, absolutely insane photography. And so I think today what's different is versus to back in the day, I think back in the day there weren't as many photographers. And if they were, they may not have been so many that were trusted to be in those spaces. I think now what you have is just everybody can take photos with their phone or videos with their phone. But then you have people who really want to explore the craft and they get serious and they get a DSLR and they enter these spaces and they're contributing like every day. Like right now we're having this conversation and there's 100 photographers across the world that are taking dope photos right now.
Right.
And they're all going to post it up. And I still think that striking images matter and striking images will capture your attention and they will do what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
But it certainly is kind of oversaturated in a way as well, which is another conversation in itself for sure. But I think it's still documenting hip hop culture, like live in the moment. And sometimes, you never know what you're going to get. And you might be at a show, you might be at a festival, you might be in a studio session, you might just be randomly in the street. You never know who's going to pop up and what that moment might look like. And if you're ready to capture it, you might walk away with like a huge W.
You're right.
You never know. You never know, especially if you're like in LA or in New York, somewhere where there's like a lot of activity happening at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So with a lot of activity happening all the time, take a moment and reflect. Can you share a particular moment where you captured like the perfect essence of an artist?
Okay. That's a good one.
Because I know you have so many that you photographed, but the perfect essence of that artist.
One of my favorite images is of Common, and he has the Palo Santo and it's on fire, and he's showing it to the lens. Yeah. And I don't know, how recently he started doing that, but in that moment in time, he had the Palo Santo everywhere with him. And he came up and he had done a freestyle with us that was absolutely insane. But entering the room, he lit it up, and then after we did the content, he did that and he lit it up again. And he's just kind of walking around and I don't know, like just vibing with it. And so I knew the moment I saw him do that I needed a shot of him lighting it on fire. Yeah. Like I just knew it like right away. And Common is one of my favorite MCs, like period. So like any day of the week, he might be my favorite of all time, might be number 2, but he is up there. And so it was just like tremendous honor to get to shoot him like that. And for him to follow my vision of like lighting it up, because he might've been like, oh, come on, man. Like I could just take a regular picture. That's kind of weird or whatever. He was super into it. But again, it was going back to having really in-depth conversations with him, and him seeing that I really understood his music and I really love and have a deep reverence for his art. And what was really great about that is he took those images and he posted them himself on his page. And he had said something to the effect of like, doing hip hop is one of my favorite things when I'm at Power 106, but it was even more special with a Tribe Called Hip Hop, like taking these dope photos of me, which was so nice of him.
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to do that, and him being one of my all-time favorite artists was just made that even more insane to me.
Yeah.
Another one that's striking to me is Nipsey Hussle in the Power 106 studios. There's an image I have. You kind of have to scroll on my page to find it, but he's grabbing the microphone, and we had spent almost the entire day with him that day. He was on a press run, and at the time he had that record that was produced by Hit Boy, and he had Roddy Ricch on it. It was the one they won a Grammy for. Right now, for some reason, I'm blanking on it, but he had spent like all day with us. He was there super early in the morning, and he did drops. He did station drops. Then he left, and he came back at nighttime. And I actually took that image in the morning. And I just loved how he came into the room, and I had met him before several times, but he made sure that it didn't matter who you were. Like, you could be an intern, you could be a janitor, you could be anything. He was walking into the room and he was introducing himself to every single person in the room, looking them in the eye, shaking their hand, and then he would sit down and do what he was there to do. And at that time, I was like, man, like, shout out to Nipsey. Like, let me take some cool photos of him. I only took a handful that day too, but I really loved that image. It was striking to me. He looked, just very stoic the way that he is, and I loved that moment. And I was like, man, let me just capture it. Let's see. I did ask him. I didn't just like run up with the camera. I was like, hey man, like, can I flick you up? And he was into it. So, those are just a couple. I definitely have some more, but Common is maybe the first one that I can immediately think of. And then that Nipsey one is also pretty striking. But I have a ton on my page. So if anybody that's listening or watching, go check out the IG page and you'll see a ton of cool photos.
So speaking of the photos on your page, you seem to lean towards a more polished style, even though hip hop is very gritty. Do you feel the polished style elevates it, or do you think it is just your take on photography?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's a little bit of both, man. I think that I have a really deep appreciation for hip hop culture, and anytime I'm in these rooms, like, it's not lost on me, and it's never not exciting to me. And so I always want to go in with like the best foot forward and try and get an end product that's really dope. And obviously, the images on their own are pretty good, but I like to stylize them a little bit more and maybe give them that polish in post. And once we're in there, it's like, how can I make this look a little more defined, or how can I have this edit fit the mood of what was happening? And I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest, because it is at its core like a grimy raw culture, but I think if you come to my page and you see my images, you're seeing it the way I see it. Let's put it that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
So do you prefer, one of the thoughts I had when I was looking at your stuff is like, do you prefer planning your shoots or just letting them unfold naturally? Like, what kind of preparation do you go into for that? Or if there's any?
No, there's definitely, I would say they're probably all planned. Very few of my photos are unplanned. There's always like a thought process that's going on of like, okay, if I'm going to get this image, or I'm going to get the 2 minutes, 3 minutes with this artist, what am I going to ask for? What am I going to want the pose to be? Or, whatever fits their style, of course, whatever makes sense in the moment. I don't think there's that many moments that are truly unplanned. Maybe the Jay-Z picture I took a few years ago was sort of unplanned, but that was a candid moment. And there are posed images from that day of him hanging out with Benny the Butcher, and it's very much like buttoned up and but the image I chose to run with on my page was him in a candid moment. But maybe 9 times out of 10 they're planned for me. I kind of know going in, like, okay, so and so is going to be here, or I'm going to have 2 minutes with so and so. Let me think about what would be cool to get with them. And then once we're in that moment, I'm kind of directing, like, yo, it would be dope if if I got a profile image of you. Not just like this. Like, I want you to do the pose, and I want you to look at the lens. And it is directed, because more often than not, if you tell somebody, hey, let me take a picture of you, they're not going to go, okay, let me turn to my side, like, give you a profile. Yeah, they're just like that.
Yeah.
So when I do get that, then that's what I really direct them. I'm like, if they have jewelry on, I'm like, oh, well, let's highlight the jewelry. If they have a ring on, let's highlight the ring, or whatever it is. I look at what they got going on, because you're not putting pieces on your body that you don't care about, you're not excited about. Right. Especially a lot of the rappers I'm interacting with, they have this ridiculous jewelry on. So I'm like, yeah, let's highlight the chains, like, show me it, do this, or put your hand under it, or whatever. And so it is almost always planned, I think is the short answer.
No, that's good.
But yeah, it's planned, and you have to have a direction, because like you said, if you tell somebody I'm going to take a picture, they just kind of do this, and that's cool, but it's also kind of boring and uninteresting, and can lead to a lot of flat images as well. So if you have a vision, especially for up and coming photographers, if you have a vision or something that you think is cool, speak up.
Yeah,
say it. And you might be really happy with what you get. Yeah.
So let's pivot. Let's talk about these iconic freestyles, the LA Leakers freestyles. Listen, I'm a hip hop head. I had the older brother that played everything. My first CD ever was Biggie's Ready to Die, right?
Classic.
So that was my first introduction into it. But freestyles have always just magnetized me. Like, I fell in love with them. So how is it for you to capture some of these just prolific speakers? I'm not even going to say some may be written, some may not, but I know when their delivery, is just on point. So how is that for you? What is it like being behind the camera, visually seeing these guys go for it?
I think a great example is if you go to our YouTube page and you see the videos, any of the freestyles, you always see me in the comments. And I make sure I let people know, like, hey, this was so dope doing X, Y, and Z with whoever it was because of this, and this. And because, like, I really have a deep appreciation for it. And, also at the end of the day, like, these rappers get paid for their verses and for their time. So when they come up and they do these with us, it's like extra special to give exclusives away or freestyles away, however you want to frame it. For them to give these away to us, it's really special and not lost on anybody in the room.
Right.
And it's even more special because of the platform that we've built and the level of MCs that have come through and the deliveries and that they've put in. Everybody comes in and like, the bar's up here and everybody wants to hit the bar. So, and surpass the bar, not just meet the bar. Everybody wants to go crazy when they come up. So, every single one that we do is exciting. As unbelievable as that might sound, like, every single one is exciting and it feels fresh and new every time. You're not always going to have, like, the most decorated MC in front of you. And I love when we have those moments. We've never had Black Thought, but I love like the black, like Funk Flex moment or whoever it is. But, sometimes you get people you don't know and they come up and they really, like, just shut it down. A great example was Simba. Shout out to Simba.
Yeah.
He came in the middle of the pandemic and man, he tore that down like
He
so
rapped
bad.
his ass off. I'm sorry, he
And
did.
yeah, he did. And we all knew it. The moment it was happening, we were like, oh man, this is going to be one of those ones. And so, you know, sometimes you get artists that you're not super familiar with and they come in and they, you know, they show you like what they're made of. And at the end of the day, like the sword is sharpening the next sword. Everybody's coming up and they want to top the last guy. And it, you know, so for me, being able to capture those moments, I really can't describe, you know, how meaningful it is for me because I grew up as such a fan of hip hop
Right.
and going, you know, going on YouTube back in the day and seeing those videos myself as a fan, like seeing the Flex ones or seeing the Sways, the Five Finger of Death,
Yeah.
and then being able to do it to direct these and to shoot them and to edit them and to publish them out into the world, like it's so awesome and exciting for me. And I really love just seeing the fans' reaction.
Mm.
Like that's always my favorite. The people that do the reaction videos, like we see all of it. Like shout out to everybody who's ever watched anything that we've done and then they have a reaction video, or even if you just shared it with a friend or you commented, like shout out to everybody because like we do it because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
And we do it for the people that love it.
Right.
So yeah, man. I mean that try not to give you a super long-winded answer, but
No,
we love it. You know, we really love it.
I just say those are so exciting for me because it's just, I love the wordplay. I think that's what captivates me. And I love storytelling. Like Nas, favorite artist to me, probably number one for me, his storytelling is what captivates me. So when these dudes go, I'm like, oh, we got
Nas right behind me.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
But man, just like hearing how they deliver and the way they put a story together, it is captivating. So I'm gonna put you in a tight spot. What's your top 5 freestyles? I have most. What are yours?
Okay. You go first, and then we'll see where we align. I have some in mind too, but I'm always more interested to hear what other people like.
So mine was almost like a top 10, but I'll give you the 5 I picked. Big Crit. Okay. I love his cadence and his storytelling. Sci-Hi the Prince, we already know why. Dude just goes off. He was, what did he say? Listen in silence. It's the same word. I was like, oh my, and then my smart self, I was like, let me spell silent. Look at that. It's in there. Like that to me was just intriguing. West Side Boogie, that's storytelling. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
When he came up there and switched it up for the superheroes, oh yeah. I was like, yeah. Even his earlier ones, he was like, who's gonna be in your I think he said, who's gonna be in your top 5 MC? It's me, and me. Like I was just like, dude, he's going. Simba, you said him, we talked about him, but then Ray Vaughn. That I listened to that probably about 10 times in a row because it was the pain mixed in with the authority he gave. It made you feel, he was like, do you know what it's like to have to watch somebody eat and you starve? Like, do you know, like that is something that you can't mimic, you can't imitate. So I was just like, those to me were like phenomenal. And some, like the one honorable mention I would give, Daylight. Wild boy, but he can go.
Yeah.
Daylight can go.
Yeah. Oh man, you need like that was like a dissertation when Daylight was going wild. Mm-hmm. That was a very special night.
Yeah.
Man, okay. So for me, in no order, I'm assuming the ones you gave me were in no particular order.
No particular order.
For me, I'm gonna have to say Common. A, because he's like my favorite MC ever, but also we did 2 freestyles with him, and in the first one, it's the second one that's like the dopest one. But the first one, he says my name in it, which is so crazy to me. Like that was really insane. He says my name. Yeah, go after this, go back and watch it, and you'll see. He's like, after this, go back and you'll see. He says like something through the portal. George knows. And he says like my name, and he looks at me too when he says it, which was so crazy. But at the end of the freestyle too, we're handing him out CDs. They were from my personal collection of his catalog of music, and he's incorporating all the album titles into the freestyle. So that was just that was just insane for me. But both of his freestyles I'm going to cheat and use them as one. The second one is going to be the J. Cole one. I mean, for obvious reasons, he went ballistic.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself. The Sci-Hi one, the most recent one that he did with us, he had wrapped up it's 2 beats, but particularly I love that he did the Young Jeezy Go Crazy.
Yeah.
I just loved everything he was saying about that. And I remember I told my girl after we filmed it that night, I called her, I was like, that was one of the best freestyles like we've ever done. That was incredible. Like, to this day, I go onto the YouTube page and I play it. I have all the audio and stuff, like I can listen to it, but like I want to see it. So I go and I play the video on YouTube. You know, we've done so many. I'm gonna have to throw King Los in there. The King Los freestyle was insane, and he had the green juice too.
Yes.
He had like the smoothie he was drinking in between. He's like taking it to absolutely outer space.
Yeah.
And then most recently we put out at the time of this recording, we put out Blue in Exile. And for me, I remember when I first discovered Blue, and at Blue in Exile, when they put out the Below the Heavens album in 2007, that was a kind of a bad time for hip hop. And they put out this album where I was like, oh my God, what is this? It had all the feelings of a classic, and it felt special, and all of the right elements were together for such a dope moment. And it was crazy to have like a full circle moment years later where we got to bring them in and have him showcase his abilities. If you haven't seen it, check it out. He raps over like 6 beats, all hip hop classics like Big L, Fat Joe, The Enemy. He's going in. So for the people who love bars, the people who love spitters, like that Blue one is up there for me, just personally because I love him. I think honorable mention, I'm gonna have to give it up to Big Sean, just because of how he was so meticulous that night. You know, like, oh man, like I want it to sound and to look like this, and X, Y, and Z has to be this, and this, and he just knocked that freestyle out of the park, rapped over like 4 different beats, and Hit Boy was in the building, and shout out to Hit Boy. And then also another honorable mention was the Migos.
Yeah.
The Migos one was so crazy because I never thought like we would have the Migos on the platform. Not because we couldn't, but I never thought it would happen. And man, they came in and they showed you why they're so special and what their chemistry was all about. Like that brotherhood, like they were just bouncing off each other. Like if you see the video, just imagine being in the room and see them. Like they were really like
vibe.
You know, they were going for it. They were in a pocket, and it was so cool to see them all like bouncing off each other. And obviously they've grown up together, they're family members, and you cannot fake that.
No.
You know, you either have that or you don't. And that's a really special one because you get to see that on display. And it's different than like hearing their songs or like watching a music video. Like they were really like in their zone on that one. And that was a special one. We've had so many special ones, like the whole episode could be about that. So I don't want to detract too much from it, but
no, we can talk about it, man. We can definitely.
I'm here for you. As long as you want to talk, I'm here.
Man, another one, since we're just talking about these freestyles, let's Vince Staples. Vince is dope. Vince is dope.
Did you see the most recent one we put out? He rapped for like 8 or 9 minutes straight. Something like it was. Yeah, he rapped over the Nas's Like beat for like 8 or 9 minutes straight. It's insane.
Is that up?
Yeah. We put that up maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
I have to check for that one. But Vince, he had one. He was
Vince has been with us 3 or 4 times. So there's a lot of Vince freestyles.
I can't think of it, but he said the part where he was saying that he said, so we kill so and so for no reason. We glorify. He said we demonize the shooter. We glorify this person, we demonize that person, so we kill so and so for no reason. Like that ending where he just stopped and was like, I was like, ooh, he's trying to get you to. He did it 3 times. Like he's trying to get you to like hear what I'm saying. I'm not playing with y'all. Like he was another one. That was a good one. Who was the other one? Oh, Freddie Gibbs, when he had his son up there. That was dope. And his son looked like Yeah, I've been in the studio before. I've heard some of these. Like he didn't cry, he didn't move. He seemed so excited, but Freddie went off. That was another one. And then Jadakiss, when you heard that, I was like, oh, it's about to happen. It's about to happen. Oh, because Jada can go, dude.
Let me tell you about Jadakiss. He had just come off a flight that night, and he was super jet lagged, and he was like, we did an interview, and he was like tired, visibly tired. And then I think he had asked for like some espresso or something, and like I don't think we had it. There was something going on, and so we did the interview, and he was like, just, he was tanking. Like he was just obviously exhausted. And then we were like, oh, we had to do the freestyle. And he was like, oh, okay. We put the headphones on, he took a deep breath and just flew. Like you would never have imagined.
Really?
You would never, and if you watch it, you would never guess that he was ready to fall asleep, man. So that was just like some serious like hip hop lore, like seeing like,
Yeah.
obviously I love Jadakiss, and him coming up and doing that and performing it that way when he was so visibly tired was like insane. Yep. And also the Freddie Gibbs one, little behind the scenes, is he had his baby with him, and we did an interview first. And in the interview, the baby was not with him. The baby's was in the stroller, and they chilling, all good. But then for some reason, when it was time to do the freestyle, his son just started wilding out. He was crying, and we were like, oh no, yeah, we were like, oh no, like, okay, well, your dad first, you got to take care of it. And he was like, no, don't worry about it. I'll just put him on my lap. And it wasn't planned it really wasn't planned like that. He's like, I'm a dad, I'm a super dad, and I'm a rapper at the same time. Let's do it. Let's go. And it turned into this like super viral moment, because you would never expect to see a baby in somebody's lap, and they were rapping like that. And the baby's face he's just so like, yeah,
I've heard it.
Yeah, my dad's a super rapper. Yeah. That was legendary, man.
Oh my goodness. And then talk about the J. Cole one. I heard that was a very interesting get from him. If you can share that story, how about that J. Cole?
Oh man, this one I don't think we can put out. I can't talk about this one on the record, but I'll tell you about it, just you and me. So the reason is because I feel like down the line they might do like a documentary or something, and they're gonna want to talk to us. So we don't want to put it all out there. But for you,
just give us a taste. I don't want you to get a whole thing. Just give us a taste.
Well, he wanted to rap, and it was as simple as that. He wanted to rap, and he wanted to be a part of the series. And I think I know he said this out loud. He had seen the other videos that we had put out, and he really loved the feel of it and how direct it was. Like you watch it and you see the box, and like, yeah, okay, yeah, you see the logos, and it's serious. We don't play any games. It's all about the bars. And
right.
I think he was in a headspace of like, I want to get back to the bars. I want to get back to rapping. I want to get back to the things that made me fall in love with it. Because Cole is a head. Like there's no question he's a hip hop head. And so, there's like a picture of his childhood room or his teenage room, and he's got like the Black Star poster on there, Mohsen Kweli.
Yeah.
Like, he's a head. And I think he was just in that zone, and he wanted to rap. And man, he sat down, and I mean, he took off. That 93 Till Infinity beat is so classic, and he sounded incredible over it. And I mean, obviously, what he did. Yeah. What he did is what he did, and we knew we had something special, and we kind of broke the internet with that one, and that was really.
It was right before the fall off, right?
It was right before the album. He kind of put us into the rollout in a way, and so. And he put it out like the day before the album or 2 days before the album dropped. I forget. But we actually ended up putting out the freestyle on my birthday. It wasn't like planned that way, but that's when he wanted to go. We were on his timeline, so that's when he wanted to go, and it just so happened to be my birthday, and that was like a crazy way to celebrate my birthday. Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, man. Like the response to that video was like explosive.
Hmm.
Everybody posted it. Everybody was sharing it.
Yeah.
We ended up trending on YouTube #1. Like we were the #1 video globally for like a couple days.
Because he hadn't put anything out like this
It had
for
been
a
a
while.
long time. It had been a
Because
long time.
I
It might
think
have been like 8 years or so.
I was just about to say that. I was
If
just
not,
about
if not a decade, if not a decade.
Yeah.
Because obviously, from the last time he had done one to up until that moment in time, he kind of elevated to a space like where he didn't need to do those types of things anymore,
Right.
like the radio freestyles or the promo runs
Hmm.
or he's up in the atmosphere. He doesn't need it.
Yeah.
And so I like I said, I think he just was in a space of like wanting to rap.
Right.
I think he just was like, man, I see all of my peers and all my contemporaries going over there and going everywhere, not just with us,
Yeah.
but everywhere, and seeing them go crazy. And I want to participate too.
Yeah.
Hip hop is competitive, at the end of the day. So
Totally.
I think he was just in that bag, and the album that followed the freestyle, like he's in that zone. There's a record on there, applying pressure. I play
Yes.
all the time,
Yep.
and that is that energy. Like I want to get barred up and I'm in your face and you know
Yep.
it was incredible. Like everything about that freestyle was special,
Yeah.
truly special moment. And shout out to Dreamville and J. Cole and everybody that was involved with that because that was a legendary moment. Like we stamped it with that one. That was
You guys,
like we were official. Yeah, we were really official when we put that J. Cole freestyle out.
yeah, man. There's one
You hadn't
person.
if you hadn't been paying attention to what we were doing up until that point, like you were forced to pay attention to us after that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's one person I want you guys to get to come down there. Right now he's on my radar. You probably heard him, Toby Nwigwe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Toby. Toby is like Toby puts out really thoughtful bodies of work and really thoughtful music. Like you can tell, like when you hear it, it's like we're not just putting this out because it's something we want to put out. It's something that has a lot of thought behind it and a lot of love went into the lyrics and the production and it's just I know he would do a killer freestyle.
Man,
I know that.
I really, we're on the same page. We're here with that because I was just like, I saw him on Sway and he just eats. And I was just like, dang, if he ever gets a chance to come over and get this, I was like, this is going to be epic. Like he's one of my top right now because it's just me being an artist, like being taught what art is and understanding it. I've learned to appreciate. And so I'm looking at work now through a different lens of kind of like a fine art perspective, right?
Yeah.
And so when I see Toby's work, I'm very much like, oh, he's painting this for us. Like he wants us on this journey. He's like, you might not get a banger or a single off this album, but if you listen to each track right now, I think he's doing his Sunday drops. I believe it's every Sunday he's doing his drops. I'm like, ooh, like I'm that has me intrigued now. I'm totally on board with that right now.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that about like fine art because I was just having a conversation about that actually, just about being really intentional about the things that you're doing and hoping it's received with that intention that you put into it and hoping it's received the way that you put all this effort into it. I love when people go above and beyond to like put the little extra details in what they're doing because that stuff is like what I nerd out about the most. One of the freestyles I personally really wanted to see for the longest time with us was Rhapsody, and we got her earlier this year. And that was just everything, bro. She killed it. Shout out to Rhapsody.
Yeah.
And her new album, Please Don't Cry. If you haven't heard it, she's one of those people. The detail is everything is immaculate.
Yeah. You know what's the funniest thing? My wife will tell you. On my music preview in a year, you know how they do it every year? For 2 years, Rhapsody was like my #1 played song for 2 years. And I was it just excited me. Like her raps excited me. And also her storytelling excited me. So yeah, big ups to Rhapsody, dude. She's dynamic.
She's one of the best.
Yeah. Yeah. By far. So George, before I let you go off of this, man, I feel like we can go probably for hours talking hip hop and top 5 MCs and all that. But before, we might have to bring you back. We're going to definitely have to bring you back so we can just talk hip hop with you, brother, man. But
anytime.
But I want to ask you this. What do you want a tribe called hip hop, AKA George? What do you want your legacy to be once it's all said and done? How do you want to be remembered? What is your lasting mark? Like, what is it for you that you want to be like, this is how I want to go out and this is how I want people to remember me?
I think when I think about what that legacy is or how I want people to remember the things that I've done, I want them to think, wow, that guy really was for the culture. That guy was culture first and foremost, and he oozed it in everything that he did. Like, it was just so unapologetically hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in your face at all times. And
Mm-hmm.
it never was anything on the periphery, no distractions. It's just all hip hop all the time. And that's really what I want. I feel like if I were to walk away from the game right now today, the things that I've done are like already cemented. You know, obviously I'm not the one that's in the chair and the microphone in front of me, and I'm not the one rapping. I'm not the J. Cole's, the Sci-Highs, the Jada Kiss, whoever, but I'm the one who's capturing those moments. And a lot of those guys who did that back in the day, you know, we kind of don't know anything about them or who they were, but like their legacy is stamped in that way. Every time you go watch one of those OG freestyles, or you see a really legendary image of like a DMX or a Rakim or whoever it is, you like whoever captured that moment in time, like they're stamped forever.
Yeah.
So as long as like I could say I've done things that are stamped in that way, then I'm good and I'm happy, because at the end of the day, I was just a kid who loved hip hop and I wanted to contribute so badly to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been able to contribute and then some, and I'm still going. I'm not even anywhere where I want to be yet. So I still feel like I'm in the beginning phases. So, you know, hopefully when it's all said and done, people will be like, damn, that guy was really hip hop. Like he really loved it, like through and through.
Right. So what is this last little tidbit? What do you have to tell somebody, the younger generation coming up behind you? There's that one kid that's like, I am diehard hip hop. I want to get to a tribe called hip hop's level. What is your advice for them?
My advice to the upcoming generation is, if you love something and you're really passionate about it, and this is really for anything, but if we're talking about photography or videography or being in the space, the hip hop space, you know, be so in love with it, be so passionate about hip hop and your craft, because it is kind of really saturated right now. So it's important. Like there's always going to be a shooter, a videographer, photographer who might be technically better than you are, you know, and that's all good, but you can still contribute and you can be the best that you know you can be by going all out and focusing in and honing your craft. So when you are in those rooms and there's a Jay-Z across from you and you have that one opportunity to do it, you can seize that moment and walk away with something that's really special and that'll resonate with people. So my advice is love what you do, be really focused on it, and be super professional. Don't be the guy, if you're a shooter, don't be the guy who forgets his lens at home. Don't be the guy who shows up with a battery that's not charged and now you're out of luck. Be the guy who's over prepared. Be the guy or girl who's over prepared, because you never know what room you might be in or who might walk in and what opportunity you might be able to capture. And if you aren't prepared and your battery's dead, and what do you do if Jay-Z and Beyonce walk right past you and you don't get that shot? You're going to be sick. You're going to be so mad. So practice being over prepared. And I would really recommend to all of the younger photographers and videographers, like, go shoot your family and friends and approach it with the same seriousness and attitude that you would if you had the biggest career opportunity in the world. Practice in those moments. So practice with the low stakes moments, so that when a high stakes moment comes, it's out of here. You knock it out of the park. Yeah. So that's my best advice, is be over prepared and practice and take everything serious. and be super professional. Nobody wants to work with somebody who's not professional.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you for listening. My name is Justin Robinson. My guest is A Tribe Called Hip Hop, aka George, and this is the Art School Graduates Podcast. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.